Hello and welcome, everyone. It's a beautiful Tuesday here. I'm Chris Paff, your host for Volumetric Video, stepping inside the frame, the end of flat media. And we have some experts from around the world today who are going to talk about what's changing in volumetric video. It's had a meteoric rise in the last few years. And again, I also want to thank our good friends at the VR AR Association. I happen to be the co-chair of the storytelling committee. We have a number of Verara folks joining, and thank you for help in promoting this. This is being recorded, and we will do a restream and also post later on. So if you signed up and missed this and are seeing this on a rebound, thank you. If you're watching it live and your friend or colleague or boss missed it, they can catch it later on, and you'll get that information. But with me today are, as I said, esteemed experts, including Richard Broadbridge, who is the CEO and founder of 40 Views. He joins us from Grenoble, France. Welcome, Richard. It's good to see you, as always. Alex Council, who's the technical director of the Center of Creative and Immersive Extended Reality, or CCIXR, at the University of Portsmouth, which is one of the leading training centers for volumetric video. Hello, Alex. Welcome. We also have Ryan Sellers, who joins us from Atlanta, Georgia. And Ryan is co-founder and COO of Soapbox Studios. Welcome, Ryan. Thank you for being here. Last but not least, all the way from Paris is Pierre-Alain Giraud. And Pierre-Alain is no stranger, of course, to volumetric. He's director, producer, and co-founder of Novaya. And we'll get into some of the things that he's been working on in just a minute. The way we're going to work this is, of course, we will take your questions toward the end. You can type them into the chat line. We don't have to necessarily use Q&A, but you can use that too. But we're going to have presentations from our panelists and then get into a discussion. And I'd like to kick things off with Richard Broadbridge. Richard?
Thank you very much, Chris. And glad to be here. And I thought I would start by giving a little overview of how people are using, in this case, volumetric video to really break down sort of the older, more traditional barriers between audience or participants and actors and the experiences that they're enjoying. So let me go ahead and get that up for us. There we go. This should bring up on your screens. Okay. So some of you may have seen the experience Colored, which was done a couple of years ago. It won a prize at the Cannes Immersive Festival, and is really a piece about racism in the United States in the South. We have a story of sort of a predecessor story of the Rosa Parks story, and we're able to give this experience to a number of people, usually 10 at a time, in a museum-like space where they're going to be wearing a HoloLens, a Microsoft HoloLens device, the HoloLens 2, and they're going to be walking through different parts of the story of Miss Claudette Colvin, who is the predecessor, or one of the predecessors of Miss Rosa Parks. And we are going to go through a story very similar to those who already know the Rosa Parks story. It's a Black woman in the American South who would not give up her seat to a white person and was then arrested and tried in court for this alleged crime. So here we see various scenes. Now we're in front of the judge in the courtroom. And this allows the audience really to be in and to be part of the story, sort of standing there in the various scenes as they take place. Another project which we worked on is the Kagami piece, which is now running in Hong Kong and certainly moving to Japan for the first time later this year in June. We'll be going to Osaka. This piece is a recreation in volumetric video of one of the last piano concerts of Mr. Royuichi Sakamoto, who performed a piece he wrote when he was young and then finally played in one of the later periods of his life. And this piece, again, allows people to start and to get up from their chairs. They start in a circle around the piano and move in and really experience the performance up close, allowing them to be really right next to Mr. Sakamoto-san and his performance and see his emotional work as he brings this performance to life. So both of these pieces really work with volumetric video, which is a technology we use to capture people and separate actors, separate performers from the filming background, as it were, and bring them in a three-dimensional way right into the participant's experience space. So for those of you who work in more technical terms or have seen what a film shoot looks like, this is an example of what the technology itself looks like. So this is a filming space. This is the one located in Atlanta, Georgia, with our good friends at Soapbox, who we'll be hearing from later. This is a capture rig we use to capture performers, and then using a lot of special math and algorithms and servers and so forth to separate them from the background and create a reusable three-dimensional asset. So here, what we can see is an example of an Indian dance performance being captured by multiple cameras all at the same time. And thanks to this technology, we're able to pull the actress, or the performers out of that and make them into a three-dimensional asset, which then can be placed elsewhere. So we can actually record the performance, record an authentic performance once in studio, and then bring this elsewhere to be reused in any number of digital environments. So there she is being captured. There she's been removed. We see an underlying shape that describes the full three-dimensionality of the performance and the performer, and then it's able to be put into other environments. A more recent piece would be this year's work on a film called An Arc. An Arc was a piece done by Todd Eckert, who runs Tin Drum in New York City. And this piece was captured and brought to the Shed, where it was presented and is still ongoing for a few more days. Those of you who are in the New York area, there's still time. If you rush, you can still see it. The performance allows about 100 people to enter a sort of a sacred space where they begin to remove their shoes and begin to build a connection to each other and to the performers. There are glasses. Everyone wears a pair of Magic Leap glasses. And then the performance of the four actors, essentially a theater piece, is done individually for each of the members of the audience. So there's Sir Ian McClellan, one of the four actors, appearing as one of the four, each set of them appearing right before each of the audience members. This has allowed us to take a play for one, an individual piece of theater, and give it this experience to each audience member uniquely, and at the same time allow them to experience this together as a group. And I know that one of Todd's motivations is to try and build connections between the actors and the audience members, and the audience members and each other. So it's a theater for one on a large scale, shared by over 100 people at the same time. Here's a quick shot of them during the filming process. You can see we're back in that green space. And our job is to capture this performance, turn it into this reusable three-dimensional asset, and then it can be presented in any number of environments, including the one that we just saw. Finally, a different example. This is a music video, also from this year out of Japan. This is the Japanese group Perfume, and we're using the same approach to capture performance of each of the artists and bring them as a group out into any number of imaginary and virtual environments. So this is the core of the technology, capturing people, turning them to authentic performances into reusable three-dimensional assets, and then building things downstream. For those of you who are technical or like trying stuff out, we have some things available for you online to go ahead and try it out whenever you're ready. These are all on the creators.40views.com website. There are sample sequences like the ones you've seen, including the Indian dancer. There are various tools for editing and putting stories together into more complex structures. And of course, there are various plugins and things to allow you to display and distribute this material through a variety of headsets. So that's a little quick view about what's going on with volumetric video and how it's used to make authentic performances available in any number of other digital mediums.
Thanks, Richard. And now Pierre-Alain Giraud will present some of the work he's been doing with Novaya, and I think, Richard, you're going to drive those slides.
Yep.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Richard, for driving the slides. Here is a project. So Richard spoke about the first project I did now 3 years ago at the Pompidou Center called Colored. It was my first encounter with Richard and the 4D views technology. And I have to say that not all the projects I think about are really driven by this volumetric capture technology because of the realistic capturing it gives, and the fact that in this world where I think a lot of value is given to AI creation, I think it gives even more value to volumetric capture, because here you cannot really cheat with the content. So when you capture something, you capture like a film, you capture a moment and the reality of a moment. And I think it's quite important for the experiences I want to share as a director. So here I had this is a project called Playing with Fire, which is open right now at the Paris Philharmonie in Paris, and it's the recital of an augmented recital of a pianist called Yuja Wang. She's one of the greatest pianists today, and here it's a session. You can see a picture of when we shot in the Richard's Grenoble studio for the views in Grenoble. Maybe we can go to the second slide so you can see her image moving, and I will talk you through a bit of the process. I think this one plays is just to show you how we recorded her. Oh, that's the sound. Can you, I don't know if you can play this one. Normally it's a video, but
I think these are all static images, Pierre. These are
oh,
all
okay. So
photos.
you didn't get the videos. Oh, okay. That's fine. I will I will talk through it. So Yuja first recorded on a Steinway piano called Spirio. It's a special piano that actually plays by itself after Yuja Wang recorded on it. So the exhibition is centered around Steinway piano, and then you have this piano in front of you in a real space, and we added Yuja that we recorded on a green piano, like you see here today. And with the technology of Richard, we isolate Yuja, and we have a 3D asset of Yuja Wang that we can replace and place her on a real piano later. Maybe because I thought it was a video, so maybe we can go to the slide number 4 so people see what the exhibition looks like after this one. Yes, so that's the place in Paris where the exhibition is. So you see there's a real piano in the middle of the space, and this piano actually plays, and you put some headsets on, and thanks to the headsets, the volumetric video of Yuja appears placed on the piano and playing at the piano. We designed a space which is a bit more, normally when you see a space with virtual reality, you have some generic images around. Here, the headset needs to have shapes around to be able to know exactly where it is. So 40 people go in the room at the same time. They all put headsets, and they can walk freely wherever they want in the space. Maybe we can go down two or three. So we see the piano and people looking at the piano. So these are HTC headsets, and it puts Yuja Wang on the piano, but it also shows surrealistic worlds that go out of the piano and will fill the room with a kind of a magical worlds where the piano is the center of this magical world. And people, as you see, are walking freely and exploring those worlds while we have this very realistic presence of Yu Jawang in the middle. What it creates is, I mean, something you cannot really do in concerts. I mean, you can really find yourself going very close to the performer. You can choose really the distance you put yourself close or a bit more far away from the music. And I have there's a lot of pianists actually that go and also and see this exhibition because the technique of Yu Jawang is extraordinary, and it's the only time they can actually go and see the way she plays that way, so they can really explore. So I saw with some pianists, they go around and they look at how she puts her wrist. I mean, it's something you cannot really see on a video like that. We can maybe just go to the next slide. At the end of the show, I added just one piece of Yuja Chopin piece where people get rid of the headsets and they enjoy just one last piece of music, just looking at the piano and the key moves. The key are moving. And here I will show you two examples of the worlds. On the next slide is the world created for a piece called Clair de Lune by Debussy. So you can really explore and walk on the water, and you have this environment where you see also the other people that are with you as avatars. And we did a lot of creation on the avatars, so the avatars also evolve and change with the world. And we can go to another one, which is a Brahms lullaby, where you go in sort of a womb at the end of the experience. Yes, I think I did a bit more of the time that I was allowed to Chris, so maybe we can move to the next one, but I can answer questions later.
Yeah, and certainly would want you to, because this is a fascinating blend of live action with these backgrounds. And as a reminder, it's playing at Philharmonie until when, Pierre-Alain?
3rd of May, and then it's moving to Shanghai in July and London to Southern Center in September.
Right. So please follow that Playing with Fire. But we're going to move to Ryan Sellers from Soapbox now. And Richard, I think you're going to drive Ryan's slides as well. So Ryan?
Hey, I'm Ryan with Soapbox, and we leverage the 40 views pipeline that Richard and his team have created, and then our extensive connections in the music industry to film artists, famous music artists primarily, with Volumetric, and then deploy it mainly on MetaQuest right now through our app, our Soapbox app. And we really focus on the kind of archival nature of Volumetric. We were very lucky to work with Buddy Guy. He was the first artist to step into our Atlanta studio, and he played guitar, played five or six songs on acoustic and electric, and then he told stories, and he just started really opening up. I think he realized being in this massive green room with all these cameras around him wasn't something he was going to do again. And so he just started talking about like the last time he talked to Muddy Waters on the phone, or the first time he picked up a Stratocaster. And it really struck us that, if we can get in front of people like Buddy Guy and really get them to open up and capture them in this format, that this is something that will retain value into the future. And, when you put on a headset, Oculus, and you download the Soapbox app and watch Buddy Guy, because the perspective is totally free, you can walk up and look over his shoulder and look at exactly the way that his hand is on the guitar. Or you can sit down in front of him and watch the way that he turns his head to look down at the guitar, or lifts his head to sing, or whatever, and really get to know who Buddy Guy is in a way that I don't think you can do with traditional video. And so we've from here, from working with Buddy and then kind of expanding from there, we've worked with about 120 artists now, and we're concentrating on capturing content as quickly as we can and really expanding the platform, beyond Oculus to Apple Vision Pro, and then onto some of these devices coming with Snapchat and Xreel and other devices like that. So yeah, that's basically what we are.
Great overview, and a lot of questions to follow with you, Ryan. Thanks for that. And last but not least, Alex Council from University of Portsmouth. Alex, you want to go ahead and share? And you're muted.
As soon as I go to presenter view, all the controls change. Hello, thanks, Chris. So yeah, my name's Alex Council, technical director at CCIXR. So slightly different slant from the other guys. We are based at a university. We've been open for 4 years now, funded by public money. So my remit is to bring this cutting edge technology to as many people as possible. There's some images of the studios that we've got and some of the clients we work with. So we work in a unique way for a university. We cover our teaching and learning, research and innovation, and then we also work with commercial clients as well. So it's a real mixed bag, and we try and get people, our students, people in the local area involved in getting to understand this production. So volumetric video, seems like eons ago, 5 years ago when we were scoping the technology. 5 years in technology terms, it is an eon. So volumetric video was new. And it was something we had to have in the center. We had to represent. And 40 views was a solution that we went towards because as a university, we can't do cloud processing. We have to do stuff on site to keep costs down, to allow as many people to come together with the technology as possible. We need it to be free. So we went for 40 views, and we've used it across so many different projects. In that last video you saw, we've got a school of fashion at the university that love volumetric because they can bring outfits in, shoot it. We can then take it into Unity, Unreal Engine, create meaningful experiences where people can walk around the fashion, be part of that catwalk experience. It captures cloth movement. We don't have to simulate cloth movement in Unreal or anything like that, which is costly. We can get all of that for free because it's captured as is in the volumetric volume. And I think that was one of the most impressive things that we saw when we did it, was the cloth movement. Obviously, green outfits aren't allowed in the volume. Sometimes that's kind of a bit of a negotiation that happens with the students when they've based their whole collection around the color green. If things can get interesting. So some of the project we've worked on, like I said, it's a multitude of different ones. So we get approached a lot by different people that come through. They might have commercial money to produce content. They might have research money. They've been funded by grants and applications. So for instance, Ryan was talking about the archival process. This was an unfortunate archival incident when we were approached by a producer called Bafakoto. And he said, we've got a spoken word poet coming. I had no idea who it was coming into the volume. And lo and behold, in February 2023, Benjamin Zephaniah walked into our studios and we spent the whole day with him. We captured him for Bath's experience. And then unfortunately, Benjamin passed away in August 2023 from a sudden kind of aneurysm. It was really sad. And now we have this footage that's very precious. We've kept it backed up, triple backed up on our servers. And now we're talking with Bath and Benjamin's estate about, being able to use it in meaningful ways. Used very much in a very powerful experience that Bath created called Collateral Echoes about Black people being abused in police custody, effectively. The next project, I think the biggest one where we really had to kind of think outside the box, was inside with the Sasha Wares, telling the story of Judith Scott. We had to blend. Our hero characters we used for volumetric because we could see them clearly. It's a VR experience, a sensory experience using sound, smell, temperature as well. we had to blend. So we scanned all the actors in our photogrammetry rig, which you saw in the slides. We captured volumetric, and then we're pushing and pulling with that. So at the right moments, if I skip to the next slide, you can kind of see an example of this. And hopefully it seamlessly blends. You're not quite sure what's volumetric, what's motion capture, but we deployed the technology in the most appropriate place as and when we needed it. We worked very closely with a company called All Seeing Eye. Ollie Lindsay did an incredible job of putting this together in Unity. And obviously for the outdoor scenes, limited space in volumetric capture, children have to run around a garden, motion capture. It was that sort of spatial requirement that drove what we did. But again, there's these really intimate moments. You can get up close with the characters and really experience it. And that volumetric allows that, as we've been seeing in the other slides. A very different one approached by a young company. They're producing caps. And they were saying, is there any way we can kind of isolate color and isolate the caps in our video? And we were like, okay, we'll try that. So the brand, we captured it, and I'll show you the video. So this allowed two things: freedom of camera movement, and the challenge was then to use kind of segmentation on the textures that are presented to isolate the caps out, make everything else white, so then they could take that into 3D software, I think it was Blender, and then animate the camera and free up this whole shot to do that. That was an interesting challenge for us, and that's the beauty of what we've got. And the other one, Tim Peake, Sir Tim Peake, I can't actually show the actual project that was put up on the ISS because we haven't got the footage back from the client, but he was very generous in his time, an alumni of Portsmouth University, so he actually gave us some time and captured himself, doing an introduction about, being an alumni. So we use this very often when we have visitors and prospective clients, because it's the likeness that's important. You haven't got to worry so much about uncanny valley when you're dealing with volumetric video. Because the likeness is captured at a very high detail and you're not questioning all of that. Another aspect, in a more abstract kind of artistic use, an artist that we've worked with quite a lot across our studios, Tobias Gremler, amazing dancer, Liko, and used in kind of these abstract artist pieces that are on Instagram. We've captured the Birmingham Royal Ballet dancers to put in an AR app. I couldn't capture screenshots in the end for this, but there's a multitude of different projects that we've used, and that's the beauty of volumetric. It's another amazing tool that we can deploy in the myriad of different kind of client questions, queries, and challenges that we get. It's just another tool in our arsenal that we can deploy time and time again, as you've seen across a wide number of projects.
Thanks, Alex. This is really great stuff, and thank you all for showing this. I want to get in, I think, really to the workflow question, and we're going to answer your questions later. And I think I just want to start with the elephant in the room, which is Gaussian splatting, which really, 16, 17 months ago was kind of new, and has really taken an enormous, footprint. It's an enormous footprint in this entire space. And we see amazing works with this. Richard, what are you doing in the Gaussian and the splatting world? I know you've added some of those features. And I think one of the videos, of course, we saw was done in that. So I think if we can all, kind of join in and talk about this, because it's been a bit of a revelation. And I think there needs to be some understanding about where this fits into the whole volumetric conversation.
Thanks, Chris. Gaussian is indeed a very interesting advancement in this field. It's essentially a rendering technique that allows us to shoot in some ways differently. We use the same cameras and so forth and the same kind of capture, but it allows us to be much more forgiving and remove many of the constraints while we're shooting. So I know that Ryan, among all of us, has to deal with musicians who have costumes that can be challenging. They may have props that are harder to capture or maybe a little bit shiny. One of the first things Gaussian does, and that's why we built our new pipeline, which we're now rolling out, is to allow people to have a wider range of capturing a larger variety within the performances themselves. We need to really focus on getting the authentic performances, musicians with their hair, with their glasses, and you can't shoot these glasses in an older approach. You can with a newer approach. Getting instruments, the way they're performing, and giving them space to move. All of these details can be improved in certain cases by using this new approach. And so we really want to allow people to get more and more, eventually all authentic performances captured and then turned into reusable assets.
Yeah, and Alex, obviously, you're experimenting with quite a number of workflows. What do you see with splatting today, and how that fits with some of the things you're doing?
It's an amazing new sort of technology, and it's changing, day by day. And like I said, when we first bought our system 5 years ago, Gaussian watts, maybe there were some research papers or white papers about it, but that's been the sort of challenge for us. We got a large amount of funding, and as universities go, we don't always have like untapped resources. So to be able to move, that's why we rely really heavily on companies like 4D Views to give us. We don't want to get bogged down with computer science. We want to give people stories and content, which is why we need to, work with companies like 4D Views who are offering that as options within pipelines. So that's really important for us. Looking forward to kind of exploring that more as we go. But it's something we're scratching the surface of, because it's been a kind of slow adoption. And again, rendering them has become a bit of another challenge that you've got to tackle. How do you render them efficiently? Put them onto mobile devices. How do you do that? That's the challenge.
That is, and we've seen some interesting, things in that space as it happens. I'm also very proud to have been a judge the last few years for the Polys. We just had a big award show 9 days ago here in New York, and last year's Splat of the Year was incredible Splat of a village in Belgium, I believe. But we keep seeing some amazing work. And Ryan, it's interesting because you're focused really on bringing all this content to as wide an audience as possible. And I love that, and the fact that you're doing this with music as well. Where do you see as? I mean, I guess in sort of looking over the past few years, and it's my guess is that you've kind of cracked the code in terms of how you can get this, whether it's to social media, certainly to mobile. What's your take on where this goes from here, and your thoughts on obviously splats?
Yeah, well, I think splats for us, we've been intrigued by it for quite a bit, but like you said, we're trying to bring it to a large audience. And so primarily being on MetaQuest right now, it's not tethered. It needs to be, just available for you to download and watch. And so
Right.
splats, it's been a question of where's the compression, and how can we, like Alex was saying about rendering, can we render it on the headset in real time? It's getting close. It's getting very close, and we're beginning to explore that right now. Right now, everything on the app is volumetric, but we'll see where it goes as far as Gaussians are involved. But then, when it comes to where the industry goes as a whole, we very strongly are betting on a world where AR wearables are becoming a bigger part of society, and a thing that's embraced by the population as a whole. And so we're interested in capturing the experiences that people are going to want to see into the future. So we're working with some of the biggest artists in the world, because we all watch 2D screens right now because we don't have a choice. We carry a phone around in our pocket because that's what we have. But Apple glasses or whatever is coming in the next 5 years. We want to be ready to put content on that in the best way possible, and we think that it's this way, with volumetric kind of merging into Gaussian splatting into the future.
Yeah, I think that ability to, I hate to overuse the phrase democratize, but really enable a much greater layer for creators, whomever they are, and have that level of distribution. I think you're right on. And of course, we did really talk in sort of our précis for this entire session about what it means to step into the frame. And we talked about where things have been for 100 years, but 100 years ago, we'll mention an American and a Frenchman, since we have a very transatlantic audience here. But René Clair, one of my favorite French filmmakers, did a film called The Crazy Ray, where Paris is frozen in time, and he's kind of walking through the frames. I mean, this is a silent film, and of course Buster Keaton was doing similar things. So, I feel that we have that all of you are doing that work today, but using the tools that are available. And I do think that whether it's spectacles or it's Meta Ray-Bans, or you mentioned Apple Vision Pro, I think in a year or two from now we could do this session and we'd see much greater distribution. Pierre-Alain, in your experiences, I mean, I'm guessing that you haven't really played that much with splats, but I'm just curious what your ideas are as a director.
It's funny that you go back to Buster Keaton, because as a child I was forbidden to watch TV, but I only had an old screen and a 8mm, so I had Chaplin, Keaton, and few Disney in silence.
And that's
So
why
it
you
feels
became a
like
director.
Yeah. And it
Talent
feels
talent
like
will out. If you heard this in Hollywood once, you've heard it 1,000 times. Talent will out, and you found a way through 8mm. So the 8mm mind, Michel Chéreau, where does splatting fit into your world?
It's very exciting now. I mean, we're using splatting in other project, but only for the assets that are not moving, because that's much easier to handle. And here the pipeline we used was the volumetric capture classic pipeline for playing with fire and also for color. Of course, it was 3 years ago, but it really gives hope that very soon we will have an even more realistic sensation and encounter with the characters we are filming, and I think it's very exciting as a way forward. So we are waiting for Richard to bring us.
Well, that's a good segue. So Richard, if you could talk a little bit about you introduced splatting as a feature in the last 9 months, and recently had the video that you showed, the Perfume, which is a J-pop band, very popular, and that video was done by Crescent, your studio partner in Tokyo, and they used the Holosys Splat. If you could talk a little bit about what that was like, and what the outcome is there.
Absolutely. It was a very exciting project, and they were very insistent upon using splats. And I think that, so we have a pipeline that's pretty much done, if anything's ever done in the world of entertainment, where in the world of capturing, where performances, where things are, of course, never good enough, must always be better the next time around. And so now we've got that project under our belt, and now we're going to start deploying the pipeline to, I would say, those who are really leading the way. I think I see 3 of them on the screen right here, groups that are going to be able to use that. And what is good news is that everything in the past can be re-rendered as a splat. Now, I don't think it's worth redoing everything. Many things are good as they are, but some things may bring out a little extra advantage, a little bit of image quality that brings the participant, the audience, closer to the performer. And so I think we need to have this tool come out, and everyone needs to start playing around with it. We're already doing it. We have our team is starting to learn, like, when we shoot this way, it's a little different because splats are a little bit different in their concept and how they work. We know we're going to go there. So there are some changes to be made in how we do stuff. And that's what we started internally. And now we need to work with our close partners and get that out there, all while advancing further on what Ryan has mentioned, and what is a key issue that Alex mentioned, is how do we successfully render it and get it out there? How do we deliver it so you can download it and stream it and play it on your device when you're using even a flat device, or you're on a bus or wherever you are? How do we make sure we ensure the entire delivery pipeline from end to end, so that we have the great recording, the great data, and the ability to deliver it wherever it needs to go on time?
Yeah, and I want to talk about. I want to get to Ryan and Alex to really look at what we're thinking of when we talk about the emotional impact of seeing a real human performance in XR versus a rigged avatar. And of course, Ryan, want to hear you talk about this because, of course, you're doing a lot of music and live music. You know, I've seen your Buddy Guy. I've seen Buddy Guy at least a dozen times because I went to school in Chicago. I saw him with, Junior Wells. So that's how old I am. And of course, Buddy Guy is now hip to the kids because of Sinners. So they actually know who he is. But he will hopefully live on and on because of what you've captured. But it's that emotional impact, again, that I think with all of this technology, we're trying to bring what is more than hyper real or photo real, but what I call performative real. And I think that you're focused very heavily on that. So I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I think the thing that grabbed me the most playing around with this, we were working on early on integrating our platform with Apple Vision Pro and with the high quality, pass-through cameras and screens and all of that. And I've been lucky enough to hang out with T-Pain a few times that we had put a T-Pain performance on the headset, and I was using it in our studio, and it was in a kind of a tight place, and he was like, a few feet from me and started walking towards me, and I got out of the way. And I was like, whoa, like that, he's digital, he's not really there, but it's that convincing. It feels like you're,
Now is that
right
is
there
that
with
is that because
person.
of T-Pain being scary or just the image itself?
He's not that scary. It's no, but it does, like, you kind of feel like the hologram needs like their personal space or something, which I've never gotten that feeling from video ever, but it does happen with the
But
headset and
that's
its
an
content.
interesting comment because you're looking at what audiences are going to assume. I mean, I hate to be the film historian here again, but train arriving at a station. I mean that was when the Lumiere brothers did that, people were freaking out. And I think that we kind of are going back to the future with this in terms of how people interact. And Alex, I mean, you've captured. I mean, you showed some amazing stuff that you've captured. Is that emotional impact, particularly with the poet that you captured rather presciently. I mean, talk about what that experience is.
I think you mentioned a phrase that's really important. It's not sort of hyper real, photo real. It's performant real. It's an emotional experience we're going through here. So, we can get locked into fidelity and pore over tiny little details and things like that. Maybe when we watch an experience or I watch an experience, that's what I do. I start pulling it apart and I'm looking and I'm missing the enjoyment of it because I've got my tech head on. I find it really difficult to switch that off. And I think, when we work with all the different clients that we've had, it's about the story. If the story hits, the technology almost fades into the background. And if we can hit any of those beats with polygonal volumetric content as it is, through to splats, through to what's next, Gaussian triangles for this, whatever's coming in the next white paper, who knows? I'm not so much worried about that. It's more about, like you said, telling a story, getting emotion from people. And we see people all the time that, I would normally go, oh, no one's going to be impressed by that. But if someone hasn't seen it before, it's that Lumiere Brothers moment all over again. They are blown
Right.
away by it and they enjoy it.
Yeah, and again, we still have to look at what the traditional parameters are, but I think in some of the things that we've seen, certainly from Pierre Alain, this idea of having a location-based experience that is is mind blowing, particularly with the music as well. I think really gets to that idea of something that's more lifelike. Like, do you see Yuja Wang, or in the case of Kagami, Ryo Sakamoto? I saw Kagami back 3 years ago, and it was amazing. It was just stunning. It's and it brings a new kind of experience because it's also shared, of course. And as Richard said, if you're in New York, go see an ARC before it closes. You got a couple more days, and that is just an amazing thing because I think we're familiar to this idea of being in a proscenium theater or a theater in the round or even a cinema or a concert hall, but that idea of sitting in a room with 100+ people with a mixed reality glass headset is that's incredible. I mean, this is not something that we would have seen 10 years ago, and now we have multiple shows, and it is that reality. But I think that some of the other use cases that we can talk about that I want to get to are in training, of course, where you need extreme empathy. And the question here is, have we reached the uncanny valley? I mean, Alex, you do a lot of training. Do you find that people are really receptive to that?
Yeah, there's a believable face there. It only takes one little element, and again, we could probably do studies on why where volumetrically captured face is less uncanny than maybe a metahuman with an overemphasized facial expression that you've motion captured or performance captured. It's that intent. Again, when someone's captured, you can't accidentally overemphasize an expression. It's there, it's been captured, it's the truth. It's much closer. There's less interpretation needed by process or by an artist on top of that content to get it to where it needs to be. It makes it more seamless. So you're less prone to those foibles that will throw you into the uncanny valley.
Yeah, and Richard, I mean, you've got a number of clients who are in that space. I mean, I'm just curious what the progression has been with them, and how they've sustained that.
Well, in some ways, we want to progress ourselves into complete invisibility. We want to. The technology is so relevant. I've watched an arc in New York a couple of times, and I tried to pick it apart. I tried to do what Alex and what we're all capable of doing, but I have to really concentrate and remind myself constantly. Or as Ryan said, I've had characters walk toward me. I have to, no, I don't need to move. I don't need to move. I don't need to move, because the person is right there. I'm in a space. I'm sharing a space with the person right in front of me. And so we need to help people to capture a wider variety of stories, and we need to essentially be invisible. It needs to be simply the participant or the audience member, or what are we going to use here? The guest, perhaps. They need to be with a person and experience the transmission of that person's art, of their words, of their music, of their dance, of whatever it is, of their training. We also do training stuff. We do medical stuff. This needs to go straight across to the guest, I guess I'll say. And then the technology needs to be completely invisible. So it's just not even there. That's really an ideal for us.
Yeah, and this is a question for everyone, really. But are you seeing any use cases for AI here in terms of filling in any of the gaps in the capture or cleaning up sensor data? I mean, just anticipating some other questions, but just curious what your work has been there.
AI is a very useful tool for a variety of ways. You can do all sorts of fascinating things and make generative stuff, and that's all fantastic. Our goal, and to go along with what Ryan's doing and Pierre Alain's doing and what Alex is doing with the various projects they're working on, is to capture an authentic human performance as it is. So AI engines, machine learning, and other kind of engines, if they can streamline that process to be faster, give higher quality, and to be more economical, to get the person, the guest, the participant closer to that performance, and that's what it's all about. So yes, we already use a little bit. We'll be using more in the future. Again, as it relates to bringing or keeping that authenticity of the performance and delivering it to the participant.
And I think that we'll certainly see more of that on the device side as well. But I want to get into sort of this idea, Pierre Alain, of shifting from the viewing, if you will, to experiencing something with volumetric and spatial computing. What do you go through as a director when you're visualizing this? I'm just curious, and how do you then get a stage, a capture stage involved? Because I think that's a fascinating thing that most people probably don't know about.
It's a very different process, I think, because I come from film, and it's a very different process when you imagine a scene you're going to do, and it's closer, in a sense, to theater in the staging, even if it's very close to film in the sculpting the time you're doing in a experience like this. But when you film, you choose to exclude or to render visible just a frame, and you exclude everything else, and you have to make that choice. When you film with volumetric capture, you take a performance, you have an actor, and then this actor, you're going to stage this actor in real space, or that's what I like to do. I like to put them back into a place, and then you have a conversation that is created between the director and the audience, which is also directing the vision it will get in that space. So you're in an in-between that is another kind of art form, maybe, that we are trying to understand the grammar and the language, where you are in between film and theater, but it's something else.
But you also are bringing elements of, let's go back to the theater for a second, something that people are familiar with from, let's say, location-based VR, of the idea of having physical objects. For example, I think in Colored, there was a bench and some people were sitting there, or they're having the experience of sitting next to or sitting in the seat of Ms. Colvin, and maybe feeling what it means in a physical way to be arrested. And I mean, these are things that I would think as a theater director you just love to incorporate, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like immersive theater, but that you can I don't have the name in English, but where you can fix the time. I mean, you can stop the time in a theater somehow. So you can be much more precise somehow with the actors and choose your vision of the acting as a director. But then it's like you have a film and you put people in the film, or you have a stage and you put the
so the mise en
stage.
scène, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, in Colored, we had many benches in the exhibition place, and we have also we had a very minimalistic house that was the house of Claudette, and the benches they turn into the benches of the bus, then they become the benches of the court where the trial is, then they become the benches of the church where Martin Luther King is doing his famous speech. So with little elements that we add to those very real elements that people always see and are able to sit on, people are really transported into the worlds, and it's like when you are at the trial with Claudette is sitting next to you, and then you can go also next to the judge, judging her, and you can see Claudette from the point of view of the judge, or you can see the judge from the point of view of Claudette. So as a spectator, you have that freedom to direct your point of view.
Yeah, and that seems to be, of course, one of the most compelling things that we have here. I mean, but capturing a sitting human is one thing. A human who's running or dancing in 3D is another. I mean, what are your big hurdles in syncing, like clothing physics and micro expressions? And Richard, I know you've done some of this in splatting. I mean, you can talk about what those experiences are.
Well, it really is about bringing whatever elements are necessary to enhance that performance and sort of finding a line between too much stuff, as it were. We're making the scene very complicated. And I think some of the work we've seen with Noir, with Colored, with Pierre-Alain's piece, really shows using just enough to really invite the participant, the guest, into the space, and then letting the imagination carry a lot more. So in that case, they very wisely used some scenic elements that were constructed, added to the space. They had the actors that were blocked, of course, to move around them in the performance. And then further, they were enhanced with various AR, mixed reality tools. So this allows them to both concentrate on the authenticity of the performance during the capture with a minimum number of elements, and then to enhance those in the performance, giving that, sort of walking that fine line. One of the improvements of the new techniques, notably Gaussian splatting, is able to allow us to capture more So some artists so far have been a bit constrained by having to have a different guitar or simplified drums or a different outfit. Some cases, greens don't work, some do, some don't. A lot of this is going to be removed now, giving us a much wider range and allowing the actors or the artists to feel more in their home environment or in their natural performance space mentally to really get the maximum out of them into their performance for the recording.
Yeah, and Alex, I mean, you've experienced this. I'm just curious what you see in that regard.
Again, what Richard said, that as the technology gets more seamless to use, there's a much more natural coming together with that capture process and that performance. I've worked in performance capture, motion capture for years, and trying to get people to ignore a Velcro suit covered in markers with a camera on their head with a light in their face. It takes a real special performance
Oh,
for people to
don't be
just
a baby.
it's basically it's like the most horrible costume you have to wear. And then when you tell someone, oh no, you can't wear your glasses in the studio, or no, you can't wear green, or oh, that's too shiny, or oh, it just starts putting barriers up, and it can, you know, you've either got to really manage that a lot in pre-production, so it's not a surprise when people get there on the day. Um, and it's just that it's always been part of the capturing process is that there's pros and cons to the capture studio, device, software, whatever you're using, and you have to manage them. But then when it gets in the way of that performance, that truth, then yeah, it can be really problematic and it can really kind of jar when you're doing that sort of stuff. So the more seamless it gets, the better.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously, Ryan, you're working with people who have audiences. I mean, you've got to be very sensitive to how that
Yeah,
that performer or what the brand elements are as well.
Yeah, we work with a lot of people that telling them to change their shirt or their shoes is a non-starter or use a different guitar or whatever. And it felt like from day one when Richard's guys first set up the system in Atlanta, we were asking about capturing drums and they said, "Oh, you could always use an electronic drum kit." And we said, "You don't understand our industry. Like that's not going to work." And so we've been kind of bending the rules from day one. And, we've solved a lot of the problems, but, I agree completely with Alex that as
Yeah.
the technology moves forward, it's making our job easier every day for
but
sure.
but all of you are doing the heavy lifting, to ensure that that this actually works, but also works on a level that's scalable. And I just want to sort of shift here to talk about what we see with capturing humans, of course, for these stories. I mean, in some respects, you kind of own the likeness. I mean, how are you protecting the identity? Particularly, moving forward. I mean, I think that this is one of the most beautiful things. I mean, Ryo Sakamoto knew he was dying, right, Richard? And that's one of the drivers for doing that solo piano performance. Mr. Zephaniah, tragically died, but you have him captured, Alex. And I dare say Buddy Guy might outlive us all. He's 90 now, and he seems to be getting younger. So who knows? But at some point, he shall pass this mortal coil as well, and you've got him captured beautifully, I might add. And Pierre Alain, there's Yuzha Wang. She seems pretty ageless, but I think that there is a definite interest in the industry for this kind of capture for major IP, and I'm just curious, what your thoughts are on that, how you react to that.
Well, now we are actually uh, thinking of other musicians and very different styles, and we are showing playing with fire, and it gives ideas to yeah to other musicians to do those kinds of projects where they have actually their image or of a particular moment in time in their career to be captured forever and be able to be replayed and relived for the audience. And I think there's a market for that. And I think now that the technology and the quality is getting ready for really being good for an audience to see and to go close to to those performers is
Mm-hmm.
giving a lot of new entertainment
Yeah,
possibilities.
and I'm going to call that right here now the T-Pain moment. So, and that's in honor of Mr. Sellers. Let's go to some questions here. Thank you for these. Dieter Michel asks, is it one person interacting and others viewing, or everybody interacting? And I think that was really to you, Richard, talking about some of your earlier works, but talk about what the level of interactivity is with some of these works, including Kagami.
Well, I think we're moving towards step by step towards even more interactivity to eventually live performances. Currently, the focus is as Ryan has said, for example, as everyone has said, is recording performances. And then we've tried to build tools that allow people to put together performances into sort of more complex narratives, so that people can interact with a piece currently on a mostly pre-scripted way. But ideally, we're going to get to a space where that can become even more interactive. But there's a little ways to go to
Yeah.
get there in a way we can do it really, really, really well.
Excellent question. My good friend and colleague from the Producers Guild of America, Susie Zwerman, asked, can you explain the difference between your process and mocap? Meaning, do you have to wear suits or do you have tracking markers to create the 3D assets?
That's a great question. Motion capture is you usually wear those suits, although not always, but quite often you do. And the idea is to capture the motion of someone and to transfer it to a different character somewhere else. The idea of volumetric, be it with mesh and texture or with Gaussian splatting or whatever the rendering technique ends up being, the idea is to capture performance as it is. So if we say film Ryan, who's next to me on my screen, we're going to have him, the way he looks, his outfit. So you get filmed in the same outfits that you're wearing, in the same costumes. Really, it's like an exact copy, but as a reusable, highly photorealistic digital asset. So a filming of me would just be the same, me saying the same thing, same expression, same everything. So there's no desire to transfer what I do to something else. It's a desire to record the performer as they are and then let people experience that at a later time.
Yeah, and Emily Trappin, excuse me, asks, what's still missing in terms of the toolkit for these technologies? Main thing she's encountered is an issue with compression to minimize data costs. Really good question.
I think everyone here will agree, and we'll ask Alex in a second. I think that the data looks good, but not good enough. It's smallish sometimes, but not small enough. It's transferable, but not transferable enough. Every aspect of the pipeline needs to go further, make it more deliverable, higher quality, more engaging, smaller, cheaper. Every piece of the pipe needs to be worked on further. What were you going to add, Alex?
Just it's deciding on the medium that you're going to deliver it in. That there's a ceiling to the quality, obviously, with any system, and you can be clever. But everyone wants tetherless devices now. If you can stream to it, pixel stream to it, rendered on a higher end machine, there's lots of ways of managing, but they're not always convenient and they don't suit the medium that you want. Downloadable content onto a device that you could go anywhere with. But data is always going to be the problem in that. But we try and be as flexible as possible with all of our clients, talking to them really at that early stage. Where's this content going? What is, and that dictates the pipeline and then can dictate the captured lengths, and is there flexibility in that? It's always a constant kind of changing fit depending on the project and depending on that destination.
Yeah, really good question. Just a little shout out here from KP Fink Hanneken. FX Center Babelsberg, of interest to those seeking partners in Berlin. Das ist geil. Yeah, Babelsberg, good. So he's got his link there. So just wanted to give him a shout out there. Martin Demmerer asks really about standards. What do we think about standards for volumetric for all of this? We have enough open source tools, but I'm just curious what your feeling is here, since Martin and Ivo Henning, who's also here, do a lot of work in the open metaverse. So Alex, I'm going to throw that to you.
Standards, yeah, that'd be lovely. Yeah, how many standards are we going to have? Because
Lots
that's
of them, lots and
Well,
lots of
you
them.
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
let's be cool. Okay, 30 years ago, this thing called the web was new. There was a
I
lot of
know, I know,
standards floating
I know.
around, and look where we are. So, no, I'm serious, but I hear you. But I mean, there's so much to dig into here.
Yeah,
Martin, I think Jeff Sipko mentioned Kronos, of course. Shout out to Kronos. What do you think? Do you think that we need that now? Not a bad idea.
yep, yep. We need standards in technology all the time, and it's getting people, companies to buy into that and adhere to it. If one person had gone, this is the way we're going to interact with 3D content in a viewport and made a standard for it, we wouldn't get frustrated every time we open a new piece of 3D software and go, what keys? Oh, why doesn't it work? We need them.
Yeah,
Standards are crucial and important. But again, I understand how difficult that is, especially at this bleeding edge of this sort of content, to be able to fit something into a standard. It might compromise the vision of that company or just take that cutting edge off it. And in the race that we're in, yeah, I'm not sure that one standard
hmm
always fits all, but the smallest number of standards we could possibly achieve would be a good thing.
yeah.
They would
So
be useful, Alex, but I can tell you what the other side of the coin is. My guys say, "Oh, standards are great, but I need to add this and I need to change this." And now someone's asked me for that, and I have to put that in there as well. Oh, and now we need to put some Gaussian splattings in there. So the standard, that's one of the worries, is the standard is a great way for us to communicate data around different platforms, but at the same time, things are moving quickly, especially with Gaussian now here. Of course, there's so many different things coming out, regularly about how to get the various pieces of the pipeline set up. This kind of disturbs the idea of locking something down or semi being sort of rigid about what can be in it and what is out. So there's
yeah.
a bit of putbash on the sort of the tech developer side, I find.
I would say, and I'll kind of put words in Ryan's mouth here. Ryan works with every piece of hardware under the sun and the universe, and of course, manufacturers have their own wrappers, their own versions of the standards. So you're going to have to work around, hack, whatever term of art you want, and also use open source and maybe join Alliance for Open Media or things like that. Where and it's not just for Google anymore. But those are really key questions. We're in a limited time we have left. I want to go back to Susie Wehrman. Has a really good question here. Is the technology good enough? She's talking about splats. Good enough quality to shoot 2D video plates and then capture, render, and create 3D scenes to use for a 3D environment? Would it replace current matte painting processes that we use today in visual effects film? Great question. And maybe we don't have the answer here, but what do you think?
I think it's possible, but I don't know if any of you three have had experience with this. It's more of a we're very focused on dynamic performances, so human performances. So I'm not sure we're qualified enough to give a full answer to that question.
Pierre-Alain, you look pensive.
I mean, I hope it will be a tool that can use that way soon. I think I mean, the volumetric capture with Gaussian splatting has been used in Superman, for example, for the parents not far ago, and it looks great. So I think we're gonna go through different ways of doing some post processing in films also with this technology. Uh,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
My dear colleague Corey Rosen's friend George Hull, who does a lot of pre-production for these big blockbusters like the Superman reboot, would probably have an answer to that. But
If I could
yeah,
just chip in, the Foundry have just in the latest version of Nuke have implemented a Gaussian rendering pipeline in directly in Nuke, so you can now bring Gaussians in and set 3D plates up, and you can edit Gaussians as well. You can cut objects out and move them around. So there's some amazing tools out there coming
yeah.
out every day. Trying to keep up with all of them is
Do before we wrap this, everyone put your email into the chat. Okay, all of you, all four of you, please do it now. That would be great, so people can ask their questions. And Rolf and others have put their emails in. Last question actually goes back to Emily Trappin. As directors, what drew you to this technology? And this is really for Pierre-Alain and Alex and Ryan, but also possibly Richard. Pierre-Alain, what drew you to this technology?
I think it was the impossibility of doing what I wanted to do without it, because I needed to have characters that you could really walk around and be with, and that's the only way to do it now, with this realistic sense of a presence. And we spoke about the uncanny valley, and I think this is when you see a volumetric video, you know it's a film. You never doubt it's a film. So you're drawn into the character immediately. It's very different from motion capture, I think.
Yeah, and this is from a man who really got his start on Super 8s of Chaplin, Keaton, and a little bit of Disney, which I think is a great way to kind of wrap this from Super 8 to VolCap, to volumetric. And what I think is really a great moment in time. We are talking about productions, among other things, that have been done very recently that you can go see in Paris and New York and other places. And of course, Alex's work with various directors is being seen. So this is an amazing moment here. And of course, Ryan's just cranking away. And by the way, it is Atlanta he's in, but it's actually Powder Springs, Georgia. So I'm not making this up. It's Powder Springs, which is about an hour outside of Atlanta. So if you really want to be hip, you say, oh, I know that volumetric studio in Powder Springs. You must be thinking of something else. So just giving a shout out there. Thank you for all your questions. As I said, this is recorded. It will be pushed out. We'll probably do a restream soon. And, you can reach out to all of us. But a big round of applause for Richard Broadbridge from 40 Views, Alex Council from University of Portsmouth, Ryan Sellers from Soapbox, and of course, Pierre-Alain Giraud from Novaya. I'm Chris Paff from Chris Paff Tech Media LLC. And you've all been great. This was an expert session as much for you, the people who were here live asking great questions and interacting, and we'll see where all this goes next. So once again, thank you so much for being part of today's webinar, which was volumetric video, stepping inside the frame, the end of flat media. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.